Hello, I'm Diana Shockley, and today on the Pie Method by Diana, we're going to be making a somewhat non-traditional pie. This is called a pie de elote, or a sweet corn custard pie. I created this pie based on my mom's sweet cornbread recipe, which is like a Mexican dessert. And so I turned it into a pie. Also, because I'm just such a custard girl, I'm like, I bet you there's a way I can turn this into sort of like a sweet dessert cornbread cake crossed with like a flan. And so that's kind of like the flavor profile for this pie. It's really good. Right now, we have it on the menu at the pie shop. And it's one of those pies that people are nervous to try. And then once you have it, you're like, oh my gosh, this is so delicious. So, what you're going to need is a disc of dough. So, I have a disc of dough ready to go right here. This is our all butter crust. So if you don't have one ready to go, you can jump over to Pie Dough 101, a flaky pie dough masterclass, and get one done. We're only going to need half of it for this recipe. So, because we're making just a bottom crust pie. This is not a double crust. We just need half of our disc of dough. You're going to need a cup and a half of sweet corn. You can use either a frozen sweet corn or a fresh sweet corn. Definitely do not use a canned corn. And then you're going to need half a cup of whole milk. You're going to need 1 can of sweetened condensed milk. And you're going to need 3 whole large eggs. Oh, and a teaspoon of vanilla extract, of course. I have a pie plate here that we're going to need as well. And for this recipe, you'll notice I have a blender here. We're going to blend everything together. We want the corn to be as pureed as possible with just a few little kind of very tiny pieces where you can still kind of feel the texture of corn, kind of like when you eat like a really nice cornbread or a corn cake. You can still kind of tell that there's corn in it, but it doesn't taste corny. So, all right, so let's get started and of course, I keep a half cup of all purpose flour here for dusting my rolling surface. But let's go ahead and get started. So, I'm going to unwrap my disc of dough and I'm going to start rolling this guy out. As you know, I like to roll my pie dough from the center out, and I flip it over here and there to make sure it doesn't stick to my rolling surface. If I need to sprinkle a little bit more flour, I do that as well. And then, yeah, just up, down, left, right. And I just kind of keep going in that pattern to make sure that I roll it out as even as possible, and also that it just doesn't kind of form a weird shape. So I want to try to keep it round. So you want to roll this out to be about an 1/8 inch thick, and that is so your bottom doesn't get soggy. So a lot of times there's soggy bottom pies, if you've heard that term. That just means that your dough on the bottom is just too thick and it just didn't cook all the way through and it didn't toast on the bottom. So it's kind of soggy and kind of doughy, and you don't want that for your pie. So I'm gonna roll this out nice and thin. Okay, I'm pretty satisfied how thick I rolled this out. I'm going to take my pie plate, and so to transfer your dough onto your pie plate, you want to gently fold this in half and then lay it over the top of your pie plate. And then you want to gently unfold it. And if yours happens to tear, mine's a little bit soft. It's kind of been out at room temperature for a minute. Just mend it together. The great thing about the bottom crust is that it's very forgiving. So you'll want to let the weight of the pie dough kind of fall into the tin on its own, so that it doesn't stretch. So you don't want to just push it in and stretch it, or pull it, stretch it. Just let the weight of the dough fall into it. And then we're going to trim this so that we have like about an inch, 3/4 of an inch to an inch overhang. And I'm just going to tear it. You can use scissors if you want as well, but I am just going to lift and tear. So see, we just have a little bit of overhang, and that's because we're going to tuck these underneath. So just going to go all the way around, make sure I trim it all. Doop, doop, doop. Okay. I feel good about that. Sometimes when I'm going around tucking around, I'll trim it just a little bit more if I notice that it's kind of thick on one edge. So I'm just going to lift and fold this underneath like that. There we go. And just kind of go all the way around, just lift and fold, just let it rest on the edge of the pie plate. So I'm just gonna do this all the way around. And this gives us a nice edge that we can crimp and shape however we want to make our pie look really pretty. And it also makes our edge just slightly thicker than the rest of our crust, which also protects it from burning. So a lot of times, if your dough on the edge is really thin, it's getting so much direct heat from the top and bottom on this edge, and it'll just burn. So with this method, your edge is nice and thick, so you don't have to worry about that. All right, so now that I have a beautiful edge, you notice that if, as I was tucking, I thought a couple pieces were a little bit thin, so I just kind of take a little bit of the scrap dough and just kind of tuck it underneath. Like I said, the bottom crust is a very forgiving. So just kind of pressing it gently just to make sure I have a nice little bubble of air into there. So I can just crimp the edge. So I love the way that it looks like that. If it intimidates you to kind of make a little crimped edge or a fluted edge, you can use the back of a fork as well. So I'm just going to press gently around my finger, and I'm just going to do that all the way around. For this pie, we are going to actually par bake our crust. So I'm going to pop this guy in the freezer for about 10 minutes because I want it to really firm up. That's kind of one of the tricks for it to hold its shape and to also keep it from sinking in, especially since we're not going to have any filling in this one when it bakes. It's just going to have our pie weights, our ceramic pie weights. And if you don't have any ceramic pie weights at home, like these guys, these little white beads, if you don't have any at home, you can also use beans or rice that are uncooked, but make sure you line it with parchment first. So I'm going to actually just pop this in the freezer before I put the pie weights in, but I'm going to give it 10 minutes and then I'm going to pull it right out. Okay, so he's sitting in there for 10 minutes. We have these guys sitting over here. In the meantime, let's go ahead and make our mixture. So this isn't going to take too much effort. My blender is really old, so apologize for that. I'm going to just throw in my eggs. Literally just everything goes in here because a blender will just blend it all up. Get it all in there. Vanilla. And my sweetened condensed milk. And this is hard to get out, so I like to use a little spatula. This guy's actually my favorite. Okay. Come on, let's get you in there. Boop, boop, boop. Okay. Ooh, very nice. Okay. All right, we've got everything in there. So now I'm just going to blend it. Hopefully it's not too loud on the video. I think that the microphone really kind of drowns out those loud noises. So, all right. Okay, our mixture is ready to go. It really didn't take very much at all to blend this up, and it looks really good. Ooh, and it smells really good. It smells like a corn dessert. Okay, so our shell has been in here now for about 10 minutes, and we need to get him in the oven because we are going to par bake him. So I might have said blind bake, but par bake is when you partially bake the crust and you're not blind baking it all the way. So we'll want it to be mostly baked with maybe just a few little parts on the bottom that are slightly underbaked, and that's when we want to pull it. Then we'll pour the custard mixture into it, and then it'll finish baking in the oven. Because when you par bake a pie shell, that means that the filling needs to bake along with it as well, but not like a full length of a pie. So for example, like a fruit pie will need to bake 45 to 60 minutes, depending on the size of your pie, depending on the pie, but that's a fruit pie. A custard pie like this will need to bake for 25 minutes approximately. So we want to make sure that the crust still needs about 20 minutes or so to bake. When we blind bake it fully, that means that the filling is not going to go into the oven at all. So, like for a banana cream pie or a chocolate cream pie, you cook the pudding filling on a stove top, and that's how it gets cooked. So your shell will need to be fully baked, and then you'll put the pudding, in your banana cream and all that stuff inside, so it needs to be fully baked. So those are the three kind of different ways that you need to bake your crust, and it depends on the type of pie that you're making. So we're going to blind bake this guy. I'm going to see if I have a little cutout already of some parchment, which I do. Okay, looks like I probably used this guy just one time. So you want to just cut out a little circle of parchment paper, and you're going to want to lay this in here. If you don't have any parchment paper, do not use wax paper. That's not the same thing. It will burn in the oven and smoke. You can use foil instead of parchment, but foil does stick a little bit more to your crust on the bottom, so just be careful with that. Don't ever put like pie weights or anything directly onto it because it will just completely stick to it. It'll become a complete nightmare. So I'm going to pour the entire 1 pound of ceramic pie weights into this. And then I'm going to pop this into the oven at 350 degrees. And I'm going to bake it for about 20 minutes. And I'm going to rotate it and just kind of keep an eye on it so that we make sure we don't overbake it. We want to just par bake this guy. So we're going to bake him, and then I'll be right back, and then we can get him filled up. Okay, our par bake shell is out of the oven, and it really wants to blind bake. So I pulled it out. Some of the bottom is starting to toast a tiny bit, but the walls and everything is still very underbaked. So I'm going to carefully take the parchment and the baking weights, the ceramic pie weights, and just return them to a little container. If you're using ceramic pie weights, be very careful. They are very hot. They stay very hot for a really long time. So, okay, I don't know if you can kind of see a little bit how it's a little bit browning here, but still very underbaked. The walls are very, very underbaked as well. So I'm going to take our custard mix, and I'm just going to pour this in here. I'm actually going to give them just a gentle stir, just in case anything's settled. But I don't really think it needs it. I already put my blender away because I'm just trying to be efficient here. All right, so I'm just going to pour this guy in. Oh my gosh. And again, you don't want to overfill. You just want to take it to the edge of the pie plate that you have. Just a little bit more. All right, so now this is going to go into the oven. I'm going to start it at 350. I'm going to bake him for about 20 minutes, and then I'm going to take a peek at it and see how much it's settling. So the custard does tend to cook pretty quickly. You can see it'll start souffling on one side. That is definitely a clear sign that you need to rotate your pie. It'll jiggle just ever so slightly like jello, but a little bit more set even when it's fully done. And don't worry if you get a teeny tiny bit of toasting, a little browning on the top, that's okay. That's classic for any kind of custard, for things to get a little toasty on top. It's also okay if it doesn't get any toasting at all. So like I said, I'll start it at 350, and then if I see that it's like souffling really high on one side, I'll rotate it. And if I think it's a little toasting, a little too much on the top, I will bring the temperature down to about 335, 340 degrees, but I will report back on how this guy performed. So into the oven he goes at 350. All right, we are back with our pie de elote, which is our sweet corn custard pie. Um, this is perfectly set, and mine did not toast very much. So after it baked, I did put it in the refrigerator, and it's been chilling for about 45 minutes. So it's really nice and set, really nice and firm. We put the corn custard mix in a par bake shell, as you recall. And so this baked for about 30 minutes. I did start it at 350 degrees, and then I brought it down to 335 to 340 degrees for the last like 10, 12 minutes. And that's what helped it set really nicely. And then I had to run and go pick up my kids from school. So I had plenty of time to chill when I pulled it out. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and cut a slice into this one, and we're going to give it a little taste. Um, Wow, this guy is so beautiful. Look how perfectly set he is. So proud of her. Yeah, check this out. This gorgeous perfect slice, and you can see a tiny bit of texture of the corn, but for the most part is very pureed, and all you want to get is really a lot more flavor, a little bit less texture, but that is essentially like the flavor of like a corn flan. So if you love corn desserts like I do and you like custards, this is the pie for you. So don't forget to subscribe to our channel. You don't want to miss out on incredible recipes that are traditional favorites and new twists on favorites as well. Things that we create in our bake shop, and they're tried and true because we've been making them for 7 years now. Our storefront just celebrated 7 years of being open, so that's kind of exciting. Lucky seven. So don't forget to subscribe. It's gonna be a really cute one right there. I love this little slice in there. Okay.